And go live over here. And then get the book out, because that's what we're doing. We are reading a book. I was gonna use my new system, because I set up a new system for the visual, so that way y'all would see it as like half a screen, this, and but I ran out of time too. So I was like, okay, that's okay. But I like the new one that I made today, so I was like ready to use it, but that didn't happen. So I'm like, that's okay. I'll use it next time. All right, guys. So we are doing our study group time. So for those of you tuning in, if you don't know what I'm doing, I'm not doing readings. This is our study group hour. So we are reviewing material from books, discussing topics regarding the material in the book, and also just spiritual matters altogether. If you're tuning in because you want to have a personal reading, or you're trying to get a question answered, that's personal. Not doing it at this hour. That's in the last hour. So, so this is a whole other ball game, a whole other ball game, y'all. Let's see, where am I at? So there. Okay, got that. There. Okay, I think we're good. Let me adjust this. Here we go. So I like to put I always feel weird when my head's like there's a big old gap and I'm way down here. I'm like, I want to be here. So I start off always higher up, and then as soon as we do the lives and I bring people on, all of a sudden I'm like, I have to adjust myself so I can do half the screen. So okay. So we are doing Conversations with God by Neale Donald Walsch. For those of you who don't know anything about the book, it is a individual who went through it. They really went through a lot of challenging situations, but they basically got to a point where they got tired and they were just, I'm done. So they had it out one night and went off and just were venting to God. And then they heard an inner voice and they started to write down everything that was coming through. So it turned into a dialogue between them and God. And it became the Conversations with God book series. There was a book 1, book 2, book 3. Now there's a book 4 that he released last year, I believe, during the pandemic. I'm like, that's a good year to release it too, because there's people at home who need to read. And it's a really good series. It's one of my favorite books of all time. But it became a world bestseller, and it's sold millions of copies worldwide. It's been translated into 30 or 40 languages, so it's popular. So what I do is I read passages from the book, and it's a conversation between Neale and God. Whenever I'm reading Neale's part, I just say Neale and I'll read it. When I say God, I'll read that part. And then I may stop at some point, because if there's something that piques my interest or that really grabs my attention, I'll stop and then I'll comment on that. And feel free to post your follow-up questions or questions regarding the material or spiritual matters in the comment section below. And then before we get off, or before I'm done today, I will go through and look at the comments and respond back and try to give you guys as much information and knowledge that I can get out in the time allotted. So I really missed you guys. I totally missed you guys. My partner was telling me Wednesday, because Wednesday was my first real day back to work, even though I do e-readings all the time. But Wednesday was my first day back from vacation, because I gave myself a 2.5 hour vacation. I gave myself a 2.5 hour vacation. Can you imagine? I gave myself a 2.5 week vacation to just just stop my brain to function, which is funny because that first day of vacation is when I messed up my throat, and then I couldn't talk for pretty much for the entire time I was doing my vacation. But he says, you were really happy the day after your work. And I was like, I was? And he's like, yeah. I was all anxious, because I always get anxious before I work. And I thought I was anxious. He's like, no, you're very happy after you work. I'm like, well, that's good. That means that I enjoy what I'm doing, and that's a good thing. I should exemplify that, right? If I'm telling people what to do. All right, so let's get started here. By the way, guys, those of you tuning in for personal readings, that was last hour, not this hour. So if you're tuning in waiting for personal reading, not going to happen. This is our study group time. If I had my new visual, you would see that. But since I don't, that's my fault. But just so y'all know, only discussions regarding the material from the book or the study group, or spiritual questions. Which feel free to tune in for that as well. You might learn something or gain something additional that you didn't have before. All right, so let's start. So I'm on chapter 12 of book 1. So Neale, why can't I do what I really want to do with my life and still make a living? It's like he's asking the same question at this point, because I feel like God's already answered him several times, and he's still asking the same damn question, but in a different way. But okay. Neale, so why can't I do what I really want to do with my life and still make a living? God, what? You mean you actually want to have fun in your life and still earn your keep? Brother, are you dreaming? Neil, what? God, only kidding. Just doing a little mind reading, that's all. You see, that's been your thought about it. Neil, it's been my experience. God, yes. Well, we've been all through this now a number of times. See, I know what God is going to say because that's like, this is exactly what God was saying. Yes, we've been all through this now a number of times. The people who make a living doing what they love are the people who insist on doing so. They don't give up. They never give in. They dare life not to let them do what they love. But there's another element that must be brought up because this is the missing element in most people's understanding when it comes to life's work. Neil, what's that? God, there's a difference between being and doing, and most people have placed their emphasis on the latter. Neil, shouldn't they? God, there's no should or should not involved. There's only what you choose and how you can have it. If you choose peace and joy and love, you won't get much of it through what you're doing. If you choose happiness and contentment, you'll find little of that on the path of doingness. If you choose reunion with God, supreme knowing, deep understanding, endless compassion, total awareness, absolute fulfillment, you won't achieve much of that out of what you're doing. In other words, if you choose evolution, the evolution of your soul, you won't produce that by the worldly activities of your body. Doing is a function of the body. Being is a function of the soul. The body is always doing something every minute of every day. It's up to something. It never stops. It never rests. It's constantly doing something. It's either doing what it's doing at the behest of the soul or in spite of the soul. Most people are doing stuff in spite of their soul and they don't even realize it. The quality and the reason why you want to know how you know if you're working against yourself is if you lack the experience of alignment, because alignment immediately shows up as a reinforcer of what you're doing or what you're being. So in other words, if you're acting against yourself, you won't have as many signs and alignment of numbers and just coincidences and synchronicities. They don't show up because you're going against your own betterment. You're going against what serves you. When you are working in the direction of what serves you best, you will get nothing but synchronicities, and it becomes a bit like it's like inundating. It's like they are everywhere all the time. The quality of your life hangs in the balance. The soul is forever being. It is being what it is being, regardless of what the body is doing, not because of what it's doing. If you think your life is about doingness, you do not understand what you are about. Your soul doesn't care what you do for a living. And when your life is over, neither will you. Your soul cares only about what you're being while you're doing whatever you're doing. It is a state of beingness the soul is after, not a state of doingness. Neil, what is the soul seeking to be? God, me, you? Yes, me. Your soul is me, and it knows it. What is it doing? Is trying to experience that. And what it is remembering is that the best way to have this experience is by not doing anything. There is nothing to do but to be. Neil, be what? God, whatever you want to be. Happy, sad, weak, strong, joyful, vengeful, insightful, blind, good, bad, male, female, you name it. I mean that literally, you name it. Neil, this is all very profound, but what does it have to do with my career? I'm trying to find a way to stay alive. Why do we always base the value of our life and who we are in this world on our work and career? Work and jobs and careers, though some people's jobs or careers may be very fulfilling, like mine is very fulfilling, but at the same time, this is not the culmination of all that I am, And so what you do for a living, how you make your money, how you pay your bills is not the culmination of what you are in this world. There's your passion, and you don't have to do your passion for a living. And then there's your job. Now, if you can manage to get both in the same thing, I would say go for it. That's the goal, right? Because because it would definitely be something more enjoyable than just having a job and then having a passion that's separate. And you can knock both out at the same time, do it. Most people will not have that experience. Most people will only have a job or a career. You can call it a career because some people don't really care for their careers, but they spend so much time and energy and debt getting into a career. That's what they're stuck with until they decide not to do it. And so that's their career. Doesn't mean that they are the value of that career. We don't have a value. The soul has no value because the soul is infinite value. And so there is no way to actually diminish the God or source or soul. You can't diminish it. You can give it the illusion of diminishment, which is what we are going through in human form. We are in a delusionary state of diminishment intentionally. We do it on purpose for the benefit of what we can gain for our soul. But there's no diminishment of the soul. There is no devaluation of the soul. The more lifetimes you live doesn't automatically make you more valuable. It does nothing for value. There's no value placed on the soul. There's no value placed on God. And so people shouldn't associate what they do for a living with value. Now, if you want to make the world a better place or you want to put something into this world, that has value, because for you that has value. It's the value that you determine for it. Your career has the value you determine for it. But you are not valued by your work or by this or by that. You are part of a precious bigger puzzle piece. You're a puzzle piece you are a puzzle piece that is part of a grand puzzle, a grand visual, grand thing. And so you are precious and a part of that. It can't exist without you. God doesn't exist without you. Neil, what is the soul seeking to be? And then he goes into it. So, Neil, be what? God, whatever you want. Happy, sad, weak, joy, etc. Neil, this is all very profound, but what does that have to do with my career? I am trying to find a way to stay alive, to survive, to support myself and my family doing what I like to do. God, try being what you like to be. Neil, what do you mean? God, some people make lots of money doing what they do. Others can't make a go of it, and they're doing the same thing. What makes the difference? Neil, some people have more skills than others. God, that's the first cut, but now we get to the second cut. Now we're down to two people with relatively equal skills. Both graduated from college, both were at the top of their class, both understood the nature of what they're doing, both know how to use their tools and great facility. Yet one still does better than the other. One flourishes while the other struggles. What's that about? Neil, location? God, location? Neil, somebody once told me that there are only 3 things to consider when starting a new business. Location, location, location. God, in other words, not what are you going to do, but where are you going to be? Neil, exactly. God, that sounds like the answer to my question as well. The soul is concerned only with where you are going to be. Are you going to be in a place called fear or in a place called love? Where are you and where are you coming from as you encounter life? Now, in the example of the 2 equally qualified workers, one is successful and the other is not. Not because of anything either is doing, but because of what both are being. One person is being open, friendly, caring, helpful, considerate, cheerful, confident, even joyful in her work, while the other is being closed, distant, caring, inconsiderate, grumpy, even resentful of what she is doing. Now suppose you were to select even loftier states of beingness. Suppose you were to select godness or goodness, mercy, compassion, understanding, forgiveness, love. What if you were to select godliness? What then would be your experience? I tell you this, beingness attracts beingness and produces experience. You are not on this planet to produce anything with your body. You are on this planet to produce something with your soul. Your body is simply and merely the tool of your soul. Your mind is the power that makes the body go. So what you have here is a power tool used in the creation of the soul's desire. But stop there for a second because I'm disagreeing with God on this one. So what God is saying in this moment is I got to go back to the spot. One person is being open, friendly, caring, helpful, considerate, cheerful, confident, even joyful in her work, while the other is being closed, distant, uncaring, inconsiderate, grumpy, even resentful of what she is doing. So I'm going to have to disagree with God, because there are a lot of shitty people in this world who get ahead or are able to do a lot of things in their lives. They're able to achieve a lot of things, a lot of great things, but they're not the best people to be around, or they're not look at people like Bernie Sanders, for example. Bernie Sanders is very much driven, and he's very focused on the end result and the end goal, but he's a grumpy old man. He's like grumpy as shit. He does not care if he's in the best mood or not. And I'm all for it, because I'm like, look, like, if you are having a appreciation and having an appreciation and a respect and a passion for the work that you do doesn't automatically require you to be a joyful person 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I would blow up if that were a requirement of the work that I do, because I can't sustain that. That's not, like, this is a human body, human physical experience. We're not gonna have 24-hour day, joyful like moments. It's just not gonna happen here. We can experience a lot of it, and I have to say I'm very grateful for where my life is today, because I experience a lot of joy and I get to experience a lot of my life. But I'm not walking around always like, I'm not, that's not me. I wake up in the morning a raging bitch because I haven't had my coffee. Once I get my coffee, then I'm good. I usually don't speak to people actually at all in the morning, so I don't speak to anybody. I just wake up but if you saw me and you saw my face, because I have a great case of the resting bitch face. I look like I look like that, and that's okay. I accept that. I'm okay with that. I'm not a bad person because I'm a human being, and it takes me a little longer to get going in the morning. I'm not going to give myself a hard time about that. So don't hold yourself to expectations and requirements for what success looks like, or for what being, happy and fulfilled looks like, because you can be very committed to the work you're doing. It can mean a lot to you, but you're not always going to be like in the most best of mood, or sometimes you're going to be so focused and it's going to be stressful, and that's okay. That's part of the experience of being here. But when you have a passion and a respect, and you definitely have something that fuels you from the work that you do, from whether it be a job and career or your actual life's work, then it's going to show, and you're going to exemplify, and you're going to put so much more into it than just what chance or what regular hard work would get you. It's going to align you to opportunities for that to evolve and expand in ways that you cannot even comprehend. If I know people who they force themselves to be happy or to be joyful or to be cheerful all the time, but they don't get anywhere. But they want to get somewhere, but they don't get anywhere. And the reason why is because they don't have the passion or the drive or the fuel for that work. It's just what they're doing. And so I disagree with God in this instance. I disagree with myself in this instance, because I don't agree that is necessary to achieve a lot of great things. So going back to this, and we can talk more about it when I come to the comments. I don't know. What is the soul's desire? God. Indeed, what is it? Neil, I don't know. I'm asking you. God, I don't know. I'm asking you. Neil, this could go on forever. God, it has. Neil, wait a minute. A moment ago, you said the soul is seeking to be you. God, so it is. Then that is the soul's desire. In the broadest sense, yes. But this is me. It is seeking to be is very. But this me it is seeking to be is very complex, very multidimensional, very multisensual, multifaceted. There are a million aspects to me, a billion, a trillion. You see. There is the profane and the profound, the lesser and the larger, the hollow and the holy, the ghastly and the godly, you see? Neil, yes, I see. The up and the down, the left and the right, the here and the there, the before and the after, and the good and the bad. God, precisely. I am the Alpha and the Omega. That was not just a pretty saying or a nifty concept. That was true truth expressed. So in seeking to be me, the soul has a grand job ahead of it, an enormous menu of beingness from which to choose. And that is what it is doing in this moment now. Neil, choosing states of being? God, yes. And then producing the right and perfect conditions within which to create the experience of that. It is therefore true that nothing happens to you or through you that is not for your own highest good. Neil, you mean my soul is creating all of my experience, including not only the things I am doing, but the things that are happening to me? God, let us say that the soul leads you to the right and perfect opportunities for which to experience exactly what you had planned to experience. What you actually experience is up to you. It could be what you plan to experience, or it could be something else, depending upon what you choose. Neil, why would I choose something I don't wish to experience? God, I don't know. Why would you? Neil, do you mean that sometimes the soul wishes one thing and the body or the mind wishes another? God, what do you think? Neil, but how can the body or the mind overrule the soul? Doesn't the soul always get what it wants? God, the spirit of you seeks, in the largest sense, that grand moment when you have conscious awareness of its wishes and join in the joyful oneness with them. But the spirit will never, ever force its desire on the present, conscious physical part of you. The Father will not force his will upon the Son. It is a violation of his very nature to do so, and thus quite literally impossible. The Son will not force his will upon the Holy Spirit. It is against his very nature to do so, and thus quite literally impossible. The Holy Spirit will not force his will upon your soul. It is outside of the nature of the Spirit to do so, and thus quite literally impossible. Here is where the impossibilities end. The mind very often does seek to exert its will on the body, and does so. Similarly, the body seeks often to control the mind, and frequently succeeds. Yet the body and the mind together do not have to do anything to control the soul, for the soul is completely without need, unlike the body and the mind, which are shackled with it, and so allows the body and the mind to have their way all the time. Indeed, the soul would have it no other way, for if the entity which is you is to create and thus know who it really is, it must be through an act of conscious volition, not an act of unconscious obedience. Obedience is not creation, and thus can never produce salvation. Obedience is a response, while creation is pure choice, undictated, unrequired. Pure choice produces salvation through the pure creation of highest idea in this moment now. The function of the soul is to indicate its desire, not impose it. The function of the mind is to choose from its alternatives. The function of the body is to act out that choice. When body, mind, soul create together in harmony and in unity, God is made flesh. The power of manifestation. This is not part of it, but this is my thing. God is made flesh, which means the power of manifestation, the power of creation as creator is expressed and experienced. Then does the soul know itself in its own experience. Then do the heavens rejoice. Right now, in this moment, your soul has again created opportunity for you to be, do, and have what it takes to know who you really are. Your soul has brought you to the words you are reading right now, as it has brought you to words of wisdom and truth before. What will you do now? What will you choose to be? Your soul waits and watches with interest, as it has many times before. Neil, do I understand you to say that it is out of the state of beingness that I select that my worldly success, in quotations, I am still trying to talk about my career here, will be determined God, I am not concerned about your worldly success, only you are. It is true that when you achieve certain states of being over a long period of time, success in what you are doing in the world is very difficult to avoid. Yet, you are not to worry about making a living. True masters are those who have chosen to make a life rather than a living. For certain states of being will spring a life so rich, so full, so magnificent, and so rewarding that the worldly goods and worldly success will be of no concern to you. Life's irony is that as soon as worldly goods and worldly success are of no concern to you, the way is open for them to flow to you. Remember, you cannot have what you want, but you may experience whatever you have. Neil, I cannot have what I want? God, no. Neil, you said this before, very early in our dialogue. Still, I don't understand. I thought you've been telling me I could have whatever I want. As you think, as you believe, so shall it be done unto you, and all that. God, the two statements are not inconsistent with each other. Neil, they aren't? They sure feel inconsistent to me. God, that is because you lack understanding. Neil, well, I admit that. That's why I'm talking to you. God, I will then explain. You cannot have anything you want. The very act of wanting something pushes it away from you, as I said earlier in chapter 1. Neil, well, you may have said it earlier, but you're losing me fast. God, fight to keep up. I'll go over it again in greater detail. Try to stay with it. Let's go back to a point you do understand. Thought is creative, okay? Neil, okay. God, word is creative. Got it? Neil, got it. God, action is creative. Thought, word, and deed are the three levels of creation. Still with me? Neil, right there. God, good. Now let's take worldly success as our subject for the moment, since that's what you've been talking about, asking about. Neil, terrific. God, now do you have a thought? I want worldly success. Neil, sometimes yes. God, and do you also sometimes have the thought, I want more money? Neil, yes. God, you can therefore neither have worldly success nor more money. Neil, why not? God, because the universe has no choice but to bring you the direct manifestation of your thought about it. Your thought is, I want worldly success. You understand the creative power is like a genie in a bottle. Your words are its command. You understand? Neil, then why don't I have more success? God, I said your words are its command. Now your words were, I want success. And the universe says, okay, you do. Neil, I'm still not sure I follow. God, think of it this way. The word I is the key that starts the engine of creation. The words I am are extremely powerful. They are statements to the universe, commands. Now, whatever follows the word I, which calls forth the great I am, tends to manifest in physical reality. Therefore, I plus want success produces you wanting success. I plus want money must produce you wanting money. If it can produce no other thing, because thoughts, words are creative. Actions are too. And if you act in a way which says that you want success and money, then your thoughts, words, and actions are in accord. And you are sure to have the experience of this wantingness. You see? Neil, yes, my God, does it really work that way? God, of course, you are a very powerful creator. Now, granted, if you had a thought or made a statement just once, as in anger, for instance, or frustration, it's not very likely that you'll convert those thoughts or words into reality. So you don't have to worry about drop dead or go to hell, or all the other less than nice things you sometimes think or say. Neil, thank God. God, you're welcome. But if you repeat a thought or say a word over and over again, not once, not twice, but dozens, hundreds, thousands of times, Do you have any idea of the creative power of that? A thought or a word expressed and expressed and expressed becomes just that, expressed. That is pushed out. It becomes outwardly realized. It becomes your physical reality. Neil, good grief, God. That's exactly what it produces very often. Good grief. You love the grief. You love the drama. That is until you don't anymore. There comes a certain point in your evolution when you cease to love the drama, cease to love the story as you've been living it. That's when you decide, actively choose to change it. Only most don't know how. You now do. To change your reality, simply stop thinking like that. In this case, instead of thinking, I want success, think I have success. Neil, that feels kind of like a lie to me. I'd be kidding myself if I said that. My mind would shout, the hell you say? God, then think a thought you can accept. My success is coming to me now, or all things lead to my success. Neil, so this is the trick behind the New Age practice of affirmations? God, affirmations do not work if they are merely statements of what you want to be true. Affirmations work only when they are statements of something you already know to be true. The best so-called affirmation is a statement of gratitude and appreciation. Thank you, God, for bringing me success in my life. Now that idea, thought, spoken, and acted upon produces wonderful results when it comes from true knowing, not from an attempt to produce results, but from an awareness that results have already been produced. Jesus had such clarity. Before every miracle, he thanked me in advance for its deliverance. It never occurred to him not to be grateful, because it never occurred to him that what he declared would not happen. The thought never entered his mind. So sure was he of who he was and his relationship to me that his every thought, word, and deed reflected this awareness, just as your thoughts, words, and deeds reflect yours. I'm going to stop there for a second because I disagree with God again. Jesus did not always know who he was. He had to figure out who he was and his potential, because it was a process. Sometimes when you read these stories and when you read some of the passages from his experiences, there are obvious times where he questioned his own faith in himself. There are times where he wondered. There are times where he did not fully understand all aspects, but he never stopped believing that he could not gain the answer. In other words, he always knew he would get the answer, or he would receive the benefit of the process, the flow that he was in. And so he did question himself. He was actually his biggest critic because he had to criticize himself. This was what he was going to be facing. And not only that, but in the discussions and conversations with all of his students and his disciples, he had to be his biggest critic to prepare for the conversations that would come forth from those dialogues. So I disagree with God in the passages of the book in this part, but I understand the methodology. I understand what's being said here. Do you choose success in worldly terms? Do you choose more money? Good. Then choose it. Really, fully, not half-heartedly. Yet at your stage of development, do not be surprised if worldly success no longer concerns you. Neil, what is that supposed to mean? God, there comes a time in the evolution of every soul when the chief concern is no longer the survival of the physical body, but the growth of the spirit, no longer the attainment of worldly success, but the realization of self. In a sense, this is a very dangerous time, particularly at the outset, because the entity housed in the body now knows it is just that, a being in a body, not a body being. At this stage, before the growing entity matures in this point of view, there is often a sense of no longer caring about affairs of the body in any way. The soul is so excited about being discovered at last. The mind abandons the body and all matters of the body. everything is ignored. Relationships are set aside. Families are disappeared. Jobs are made secondary. Bills go unpaid. The body itself is not even fed for long periods. The entire focus, that sounds like me. The entire focus and attention of the entity are now on the soul. This is totally me right now, because this has become me. I've always been this person who is like very detail oriented, and you have to be if you're a Starbucks store manager. And so you have to pay attention to all these different things constantly. Today, because of the state of being that I've sustained for the last few years, and it's just becoming more and more intense in that way, the things that normally I would be concerned with, I no longer give it enough energy or focus. This is why I have an accountant now. This is why I have a tax person. This is why I have a social media manager. This is why I have, an assistant, because there are things that I just don't keep up with anymore because they don't concern me. It's like I don't want to spend energy focused on those things. I would rather focus on other things from the point of perspective of consciousness, because it's more important to me than that. So those things. So it's like, that's my primary goal. That's my primary focus. Like, today I had a client, and I felt for her because I know what she's going through, because she's been suffering and struggling with a lot of health-related conditions and issues. And a lot of what she describes are conditions that I have had to go through myself in my body. And for the most part, I unless I'm like really getting hit hard by something, I don't have time for it. I don't have time for it. And I'm going to try to muscle and push through as much as I can, because I do not have time to give energy to a disorder or a disease or anything, because it's taken away from the work that I'm trying to do. So I don't have the energy to like even give it what it needs from me, is the energy. So I just power through. And what I've realized is that my body listens. It listens. It may not always listen. And when it doesn't listen, at that point, I take notice and I pay attention. Because if it's not something that I can intentionally and willfully change by just simple choice, then there's something in the experience that I'm being taught and I'm being given, and I must pay attention. So that's what that's about. And so that's why sometimes when I am going through something physically and it's just not doing what I want it to do, my body's not listening, I'm like, okay, well then this is what I need to be going through then, and I need to pay attention because there's something from it that I'm gaining. The mind abandons the body and all matters of the body. Everything is ignored. Relationships are set aside. Families are disappeared. Jobs are made secondary. Bills go unpaid. The body itself is not even fed for long periods of time. The entire focus and attention of the entity are now on the soul and matters of the soul. This can lead to a major personal crisis in the day-to-day life of the being. Although the mind perceives no trauma, it is hanging out in bliss. Other people say you have lost your mind, and in a sense, you may have. Discovery of the truth that life has nothing to do with the body can create an imbalance the other way, whereas at first the entity acted as if the body were all there is. Now it acts as if the body matters not at all. This, of course, is not true, as the entity soon and sometimes painfully remembers. You are a tripart being and made of body, mind, and soul, or spirit. I'm sorry. Repeat that. You are a tripart being made of body, mind, and spirit. You will always be a tripart being, not just while you are living on earth. There are those who hypothesize that upon death, the body and mind are dropped. The body and mind are not dropped. I want to make sure I got that right. Yeah. There are those who hypothesize that upon death, the body and mind are dropped. The body and mind are not dropped. The body changes from leaving its most dense part behind, but retaining always its outer shell. The mind, not to be confused with the brain, goes with you, too, joining with the spirit and the body as the one energy mass of 3 dimensions, or facets. Should you choose to return to this experiencing opportunity that you call life on earth, your divine self will once again separate its true dimensions into what you call body, mind, and spirit. In truth, you are all one energy, yet with 3 distinct characteristics. As you undertake to inhabit a new physical body here on earth, your ethereal body, as some of you have termed it, lowers its vibrations, slows itself from a vibration so rapid that it cannot even be seen, to a speed that produces matter and mass and matter. Things actually matter. This actual matter is the creation of pure thought, the work of your mind, the higher mind aspect of your three-part being. And I need to explain something about this too as well, because something that I learned about the chakra system back when I used to do Reiki and I used to study more of those topics and ideas. People always get hooked on the chakra system as if the chakra system is like, bread going out of style. Like they're like, oh my God, it is not everything. The chakra system is a representation of a reduction of energy, vibration, and frequency. In other words, think of it this way. When we are in physical bodies, our physical body has to maintain and vibrate and sustain a dimensional wave or a dimensional pattern that can be sustained in that state. And so in order to do so, the pure consciousness of Source, we as pure consciousness, as God, we must reduce that consciousness. We must reduce it in every way, shape, or form. And so the energy of that consciousness must be reduced and restricted and confined. And part of that process is the lowering of the high frequency of that vibration, of that high intense state. And so the chakra system, we have our physical body. The chakra system is a energy reduction system. Think of it this way. When you are looking at a neighborhood and you've got all the telephone poles and you've got what do they call it? The things that run electricity, because you've got the electricity running, the current running through the wiring, and then they go and they stop at these breakers. I don't know what they're called. They're not breakers, transformers. They're called transformers. The reason why they're called transformers is because they actually transform the energy rate, the energy rate, or they reduce the vibration. They reduce the frequency of the energy. And so when the energy coming directly from a power plant, which is highly charged and is extremely powerful, once it hits the smaller power lines, it has to be reduced and transformed so that it doesn't blow your sockets up. So it has to be reduced. And there are several of those along the way. And so for our bodies or our physical form, every chakra, beginning with the highest frequency chakra to the lowest frequency chakra, basically reduce the charge or reduce the vibration of our being so that it can be accommodated in physical form. Without the chakra system to reduce that frequency range, our bodies, we couldn't use them because we aren't able to reduce our state to such a low enough stage that we can activate and engage with this state of being of matter and this physical form. So that's how the chakra system works. And so people who get obsessed with the chakra system, well, this is not open and that is not open. I'm just like, drop with the chakra system, please. Like focus on the work or focus on the intent or focus on aligning with the energy. Your chakras will align themselves. They are representations of your state of being, not the culmination or the controllers of it. So it's almost like, my stomach, it's got like, it's got, I'm heavy and I've got extra weight. And so I need to like take that away. And I'm just like, no, change your state of being or your habits. And then that automatically will become affected. And think of the chakra system operating the same way. If you, by lifestyle choices and habits, meaning your thoughts, your emotions, and your words or actions, if they're all synced and lined up, your chakra system is going to function just fine. So that's part of what they're describing here. Not the chakra system, but the idea of lowering that vibrational state. This matter is a coagulation of 1,000,000 billion trillion different energy units into one enormous mass, controllable by the mind. You really are a mastermind. As these tiny energy units have expended their energy, they are discarded by the body, while the mind creates new ones. This is mind creates out of its continuing thought about who you are. The ethereal body catches the thought, so to speak, and lowers the vibration of more energy units, in a sense crystallizes them, and they become matter. The new matter of you, in this way, every cell of your body changes every several years. You you are quite literally not the same person you were a few years ago. If you think thoughts of illness or disease or continuing anger, hatred, and negativity, your body will translate these thoughts into physical form. People will see this negative, sick form, and they will say, "What's the matter?" They will not know how accurate their question is. The soul watches this whole drama play out year after year, month after month, day after day, moment after moment, and always holds the truth about you. It never forgets the blueprint, the original plan, the first idea, the creative thought. Its job is to remind you, that is, to literally remind you, so that you may remember once again who you are and then choose who you now wish to be. In this way, the cycle of creation and experience, imagining and fulfilling, knowing and growing into the unknown continues both now and even forevermore. I'm going to stop there because that's a lot. So, all right. So let me go over some of the questions, y'all, because y'all have some great questions. I hope y'all have questions. I don't know what to do if y'all don't have questions. That's the goal, to like go down the rabbit hole and then make sense of the damn dirt. So let me put this up so I can get to that. And then we can go back into some of those questions. By the way, guys, for those of you tuning in thinking that this is personal readings, these are not. This is a study group time. So we're actually going through books and reading the material and discussing spiritual topics. So if you're wanting a reading, personal reading, you're going to have to come back next week because this is study group time. So that way you don't wait around waiting for me to answer your question thinking that that's going to happen, because it's not. Because that was earlier. So, all right. There we go. Perfect. All right, so let's see what you guys have to ask me about with this. Let's see. Oh, Jessica Cox. She says, that was a sign from God, Jessica Cox. So you would not go back live and spend time on vacation. Yeah, I took the hint because my being, when I say my being, I mean my highest self, which is Aja, which is also me, which is also God, which is also me, which is all of us. When my throat messed up, it was obvious that, because I had actually planned on doing lives while I was on vacation, and they were like, "Nope, you're taking the time off and you're going to focus on yourself." I'm like, okay, I'm just going to take the time off and just take care of myself. Not take care of myself because I don't need to take care of myself, but give myself a break so that I can give myself a chance to kind of like release some of that energy that built up when you work so much. So thank you. Yes, Jessica, that's very true. Yes, this is exactly the way life works, because my life is living proof of that. And I talk about it often, and I can give you like countless experiences and countless examples, which I am going to put in my third book because there's already like a third book in the works. The first book is the psychic book. The second one is the mediumship or the spiritual communication. The third one has to do with spirituality. And that one will include law of attraction and manifestational stuff, etc. There's two ways to manifest, because people, when they come to understand this and they realize that it really is the alignment of their thoughts, their emotions, and their speaking and actions all in unison is what brings about something. And it's not just like doing it the moment. It's not like something will always manifest right away when you immediately start doing that. What actually happens is you have to sustain that. If you think of it this way, think of it like a rubber band. So you've been living your life this way, right? And so the rubber band pulls you back into the same cycles over and over and over again. And you're like, I'm so sick of this same crap over and over and over again. I don't want this to keep happening. And so you realize that you have the power to change it through transforming your state of being, which is your thoughts, your emotions, and following through with words and action. At that point, you're starting to put energy into a completely different direction, and you're pulling energetically in a different direction. But you've still been doing this for so long. This is on autopilot. This has been going this way for a good chunk of your life, or for a good while. And so while this is going, and then you've got this going, you've got to put more into this in order for this to no longer be sustainable and for it to lose power in your life to affect the things that you are experiencing or coming into your life. So you've got this constantly pulling, that's your norm. You say, I'm going to change a little bit. I'm going to change a little bit. I'm going to change a lot more. I'm going to change a lot more. I'm going to change a lot more. And at that point, then you'll start to get more energy on this side. And then this one is going to start to diminish. And at some point, if it's so far away from your reality, it's going to drop and no longer really exist. This is going to be the primary state of being. So you have to do enough to get this new state of mind, state of being, to be the norm. If you just start to if you've got this going on and then you're just putting a little bit here, don't expect miracles. It's not often that is the case. Now, sometimes that happens, but it's usually because it's a sign that you need to move in this direction. It's an affirmation. And so if you have this going on, sometimes if you just put a little bit here, you'll get a huge snapback. And what I mean by snapback is when you progress energetically in a direction that you desire now and you're willfully doing it and choosing that, you have to fight against yourself as well, because you are pushing in a completely different direction and you don't have enough charge and enough consistency there. The universe hasn't gotten the memo yet because it's so used to being this old person and operating from this old point of perspective and being. So at some point, the automatic pilot is still going to be a part of that. So even though you are wanting to, turn the plane left, the autopilot has been set on right for so long. And so you're going to have to fight that autopilot. I call that the snapback, which means if I take one step in the direction of where I actually want to go, something may come up immediately and snap me back or make it feel like it's impossible or make it feel like it's going to be so much harder than I thought. That's a snapback. That's the universe reminding you of who you've been because you've only been that for so long. And so you have to push past the snapback. You have to be like, and the key is don't react. Don't react. Just, okay, well, this is what this is part of. This is part of the process. So don't react to the snapback. Just accept the snapback, do the best you can with it, and then get back to consistently trying to push in the direction you want to go in. That's how you go against the norm and what you've been sustaining in your life. And it takes work and effort, and it takes time as well. There's a person on Facebook. It says, "A place to heal." That's the name of the person. And it says, "Free readings for ditching this tool and coming to my page. Code word, shame the gaze." Oh, sweetheart, you've disgraced yourself. So I hope that you can remember who you are in divinity because you disgraced yourself. Yeah, but guys, by the way, there's a fake profile going around acting and pretending to be me, and you can tell it's fake because it's not spelled properly, or the name there's like a dash or something, so it's not. But they're requesting friends, they're requesting people on Facebook. So if you get a friend request from someone on Facebook and it looks like it's my page and it's my name, it's not. There's a scammer going around. I already put this out on social media, but some people don't see it, and then also keep getting messages that there's someone going around. There's a lot of spammers on Facebook. I'm trying to find questions, but let's see. I love it when people don't know who I am and haven't done the research and they just hop on and say, "Can you pull a card?" I'm like, I'm not a tarot reader, so no. Yeah, so Tam. So Tam's got a question, and I think I already explained it, but I'm going to explain it again. So can you clarify what he was saying about visualization? I thought we could visualize something, and many times it comes to pass. Visualization is not manifestation. Visualization is visualizing things and hoping for the best or trying to be positive. And a lot of people get stuck there. They try to visualize and then they try to be positive. That's not doing anything for you. You have to embody the state you wish to achieve. So if you are wanting to be if you're wanting to, let's say, for example, I'll use my example. Before I moved here to New Mexico, I had already taken a trip here. I fell in love with it, and I'm like, I want to live here. And so I tried to set my home space up in Houston with reminders and things that brought me back to the way I felt when I was here. And every time I would see this reminder, experience this reminder, even going to sleep, hearing crickets, because that's what we would hear here at night is crickets. And I love that sound. Didn't have that in Houston. So I'd fall asleep with the crickets, there. I'd have my wallpaper on my laptop would be the scene I would see here when I was visiting. So every time I would see it, I wouldn't just think, oh, I'm going to visualize being in New Mexico. No, I would actually remind myself and reconnect with the moment I was actually here, experiencing those feelings and what it felt like to be here and just appreciating that. So I took myself to a state of appreciation of a state of being that I didn't have yet. But that's where I was cycling at. So it wasn't just visualization. It was actually using something tangible to help myself have the experience of it. People who are visualizing being millionaires, but they have never spent any time investing, any time looking into, financial stuff and looking into what it's like to actually be someone who's got $1 million, they will never achieve that because they can't even grasp or consciously understand what that state is like. Find a millionaire and become friends with them, or read books written by millionaires, and then you can start to get into the mindset of what they think, how they feel towards things. Millionaires aren't usually like freaking out over how much I'm going to spend at the grocery store. So if you're spending, 2-3 times a week freaking out over what you just bought at the store, you're basically doing the opposite energy expression of what a millionaire would experience. So you have to think that way. So you have to shift it and completely go in another direction. It's just not just visualizing. Visualizing is only one part of it. It's almost like I bought the tires, Ferny, but I can't drive anything. I only have it won't work. Like my vehicle won't work. I can't get anywhere. Well, yeah, because you only have tires. You don't even have the vehicle. You don't have gasoline. You don't have anything. You just have tires. You're not going to get anywhere with tires. You need the whole complete thing. It takes the whole thing to do it. Yes. Yes, Shamara Williams. Very good. So in other words, good point here. So in other words, you were saying allow yourself to bounce, but be persistent in accomplishing that goal. Absolutely. Because if you are going to be dismayed, or if you're going to be you're going to fall apart at the first sign of trouble, then you don't deserve the thing that you desire. You don't deserve it. You're not even willing to put in the work to it. It's almost like, could you imagine if every woman who was having a child and was in the middle of giving birth to their child and they felt the urge to push and they started to push, but then they felt the pain and they stopped. Oh, no. No, that was painful. I don't want to experience that. I'm just not going to push anymore. Then you birth nothing new into this world. You have to push through the pain. You have to push through the desire to be uncomfortable. The experience of being uncomfortable for the desire of what you're trying to produce into this world. Think of it that same way. It's the same methodology and process. Everything, by the way, and this is the wisdom and the perfection of creation. Everything in life is a perfect representation of all of the states of being. And so if you look at a woman giving birth, it is a representation of manifesting something in this world. There's a lot of repeating themes. And so if you pay attention, you'll notice all of those like patterns and synchronicities there. But yeah, you have to push through. So if I decide that I'm going to go and sing at a club because I want to just get my name out there and I want to sing. I want to feel incredible on stage, being recognized, and I want to be a singer. But then you get on stage, you totally bomb. And then it doesn't really work out and you didn't really get the attention you wanted. Do you stop there? Absolutely not. You get your ass back on there the next week and you try to do better, and then you try to do better, and then you try to do better. The reason why I am able to be as good as I am able to be on most of my lives is because I spent a lot of time pushing myself to get on lives and do it. It was not fun and it was not comfortable. And in the beginning, I was really fighting it because it didn't feel comfortable for me, but I pushed myself, and the persistence paid off. And so for me, psychic sensing, Here's another example. For those of you who may want to develop your psychic abilities, I when I first started to train with Pam Coronado, she's one of my teachers. This was years and years ago. This was like a thing in 2013, I think, or 2012-ish. This is like a while ago. I joined a class, and it's a monthly class that she has. And she holds, like, it's like a weekly, she gives you an exercises every week, and then y'all have a call every week, and then y'all review the stuff. And she gives you feedback, or she tries to help you understand what's going on and what you can do to improve. And so I joined the class with a person that I considered my friend at the time. She was also a psychic. She was very, very good also. She was very, very good. And we got into the class, and the very first week of the class, I did the exercise, and I bombed. Like, it was awful. I was horrible. I went in very cocky and like, I'm going to knock this out. And no, that didn't work out. So I was bad. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to stick with it because Pam knows what she's doing. And she already told us that don't expect, big grand things your first time. You need to practice. And the person that I considered my friend, she did incredibly well, but she thought she did horrible. And so in the class, we're supposed to sense, we deal with missing persons cases, and we also deal with criminal activity and crimes and murders. And so we have to sense details regarding those kinds of situations and scenarios. And this one specific exercise, what happened was the person that I consider my friend, what she said is, she came up with an entire narrative. And this is a common mistake that most psychics make. They don't focus on sensing the details. They focus on a story. So they try to create a story. But when you try to create a story, meaning you try to come up with some sort of like overall impression of everything, at that point, you've basically like screwed yourself up and you've tricked yourself, because you're trying to encompass a complete experience. You can't do that unless you're actually living the experience. So unless you're living the experience, you don't have the mental capability of completely embracing and knowing all elements and details and pieces and things that happened, who it happened to, you can't grasp it unless you're actually going through it directly, or your God, because that's the embodiment of all things. So she was focused on the narrative or on a story, and I was listening to Pam and trying to focus on the details. Focus on the details. I don't need to know who did what to who, what happened, where they're from, what's going to happen next. I don't need to know that. I just want you to describe some elements of the situation or of the scenario. That's what I focused on after I bombed badly. And she was still focused on the whole story. She wanted to give a narrative. So her narrative was this. She says, well, in this specific case, this woman was raped, and then she was murdered, and then she was taken to a warehouse, and she was tied up, and then she was thrown under a pile of debris and wood. And like, what is it? Wood, like those big slabs of wood. And so that's what happened to her. That's not what happened. What happened was a woman was, she was at home with her boyfriend, and they had just finished they had gone out to a bar, had fun at the bar, went home, had sex, and then they had a fight or an argument. She was upset. She decided she was going to go home. She was at his place. She decided she was going to go home. So she went driving down a wet, slick road. She slid her vehicle off the highway on accident and ended up careening into a ravine. And then she didn't stay in her car. She flew out of her car, and she ended up floating down the ravine. And she ended up stuck underneath a log, a big tree that had fallen into the water. And then there was like a hospital close by. So what my friend had picked up on was, she had picked up on the sexual activity. She had picked up on the argument or the disconnect between the boyfriend and the girlfriend. She had picked up on her being under a piece of wood or under wood, she picked up on all these very specific pieces, but the story she spun made it seem like she was completely off. And so she's like, I'm not going to do this class anymore. I don't have anything to learn from her. She doesn't have anything to teach me. And this is the cockiness and arrogance, right? Because she was so used to doing this on her own. She wasn't used to being taught by someone who actually had experienced this. And Pam is a like world-renowned, recognized psychic a detective who's been on several shows, been on Dr. Phil, been on all these shows. This is her. She works with the FBI. She works with law enforcement. She knows what the hell she's doing. And so I'm not going to come in, not ever being properly trained, dealing with a pro and automatically try to make them out to be like they don't know what they're doing just because I was wrong with the first exercise because I created a story when she told us not to create a story. So this person, because her narrative, her story was wrong, but her details were correct, she didn't even acknowledge the details she got. And I even tried to talk her out. I was like, no, don't be so hard on yourself. You got a lot. You got way more than I got. You got a lot of specific details. You're really good. Stick with it, because it's obvious that you have something to gain from this experience and you can amplify your ability. Stick with it. Don't give up. And she was like, no, I don't think so. She was just like, she wasn't having it because she was so upset that she was wrong in her narrative. And she thought that's the only way. And she kept trying to twist it into, no, I don't think she knows the story properly or whatever. Like, I'm just like, get the fuck out of your head. What the fuck is wrong with you? Like, this is an opportunity for you. Persist and keep pushing forward. And so this is the ego. This is a perfect example of the ego. The ego's job is to maintain a reality and a state of being for a person, for a soul. So that's the personality. Her ego was just completely in overdrive because she could not accept that she needed to learn and grow and she could still evolve. And that's a big issue when you're trying to develop psychically, because if you allow yourself to give in to if you give in to your ego having to be right or you having to be right and not allowing yourself to be human and be wrong, you're screwing yourself out of an opportunity for growth and development. That's why that was a very big lesson for me, because I was also full of it. And to some days I'm still full of it, but I learned from that, watching that, like, I need to check myself then, because if I do the same things, I'm not going to grow. I'm not going to develop, and I'm not going to get to where I want to get to with this. So that's a good example of like persisting past the snapback experience, because if not, you will keep yourself from achieving what you want. So let's see. Going through here because I'm trying to get a couple more questions in before I stop, because I'm already at my time here. So let's go here. Yeah, exactly, Red Robin. Like the saying, you have to flip the script. You have to flip the script. And sometimes even the thinking of like fake it till you make it. Yes and no, because if you fake it, but you believe you're faking it, then you're faking it. This is why you have people who are actors and actresses who step into characters for parts in films. They don't go and have the same experiences as those parts, because even though they step into that being of that character and that persona, once they're done with it, they know that that's not them, and they know how to disconnect themselves from that, and they know how to compartmentalize that aspect of their experience and themselves, and so they know how to fake it and make it. But if you are faking something and you believe you're faking it and you don't actually believe in the process, then at that point you're going to run into the same issue over and over and over again. Yes, Cassidy. That's me. I ignore illness, etc., and power through. Yeah, you do. Now, sometimes we shouldn't, because sometimes some pain is there for a reason, and if there's something that's going on and it's painful and it's a consistent thing, then we should probably take it more seriously. But I didn't grow up. I grew up poor, so we didn't go to the doctor whenever we had an ouchie or an ooey. We basically had to power through. And so if you cut your finger and you lost your finger, well, then you lost your finger. You ain't going to the hospital. We ain't got the money for that. So that's how I was raised. Part of my reaction and responses is because of the way I was brought up. So I don't believe we should always ignore what our body's telling us, but at the same time, our bodies can be really big bitches that like to moan and cry and complain a lot. And so I tried to like, no, girl, like I've got to get stuff done. You need to get yourself together today, because I don't have the energy for that right now. They are a joke. But it's funny because our bodies are very humbling, because they limit us in what we think we could do. Without the limiting effects of the body, we would probably find ourselves getting into a lot more trouble and not achieving some of the goals that the soul has for us. So the humbling experience is a very useful one as well. It's a balance, right? It's a balance between utilizing the ego and the tool that it is, and utilizing utilizing the ego and the tool it is, and then utilizing I totally lost my train of thought. Utilizing the ego and the tool that it is, and utilizing our ability to kind of detach and disconnect so that we're not so attached to it. So use a tool, but don't walk around with a hammer as if it's your best friend, because it's not. And if you try to sleep with a hammer, you're probably going to knock yourself out. So that's the way that I would describe it. Yeah, so Cassidy, so yeah, about the chakras. On my free psychic development class, there's an entire section I have devoted to the chakras. It's like a 7-minute video, and it's very well detailed, and I have animations and everything. I mean, it took me like a month to make that stupid video, but it's a great video because it totally helps you to grasp how the chakra system really works. And it doesn't cover every aspect of the chakra system. I'm pretty sure there are people who spend their lives studying the chakra system. I could care less about the chakra system, just because I just, my mind is on other things and not on the damn chakras. So it's like, it just depends on the person. But yeah, the chakra system can be a lot more complicated. But that's a very generalized idea for the system and what it's designed to do, which is to reduce our vibrational frequency, to reduce our state of being into a state where it can be supported and sustained and engaging with the physical mass, with this physical state of being. Spiritual life. Well, here's the thing. It's not like I'm walking around. Well, I am walking around always like in my head. I was gonna say, it's not like I spend all day. I mean, I have days where I'm just human and I'm just sitting in front of the TV watching Star Trek or whatnot. But I do a lot of pondering and a lot of contemplation, and I feel like I'm in a constant state of prayer, because I'm always in my mind with God. I mean, I am. And again, God is us, we are God. So I don't see it as like a disjointed, disconnected thing. I see it as another pattern in my being, in my mind, that if I just switch gears, then it's right there and it's able to come through, and I can pay attention and like get more from it. So it's just a state of being that we switch over to. Mm-hmm. Yep. Hmm. Hmm. Let me snap a picture of that, because I just got a alignment, so I have to. I love you guys so much. I just want y'all to know how much I love you all. I absolutely love you all. I adore you all. Even the halfwit over here who's talking shit, I still love them too. All right, well, I'm done. I'm done, and I have to get dinner going today. We're having burgers and fries, vegan burgers and fries, so that's good. Well, not vegan because I'll put cheese on it, but yeah. All right, guys, I love you all. I will be back next Wednesday for our usual study group time. Hopefully, I have the new look thing set up there. So, all right, guys, I love you all.